Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show. We're back to Wild West and the Buffalo Bill story. Now, I know y'all been waiting for this, and we're going to hunker down. So, it's just imagine it's cold outside, you're sitting around the radio back in olden days, and we're going to listen to some stories of the Wild West. So, transport yourself back into the times where men were men and wild things roamed the plains, and we'll join ourselves there where life was rough and tough. People died at the hands of the savages, of the wild Indians out there, and the prairies were desolate. Anyway, so imagine that. So get your favorite beverage, maybe tea or anything else, or coffee or a hot chocolate, and we'll just dive right in. But I appreciate y'all for being here, and we're gonna really get into this with chapter 10, and we're finding out that Buffalo Bill is hoping that Custard is on his way to rescue them, and we're going to start out with chapter 10, A Pale Face Recognized. And here we go with that. We'll jump right into this and find out what is going on. And there we go, chapter 10. Before our pale face recognized, before day dawned, Wanda, the Blackfeet Queen, failed her warriors' attire, for distant sounds of guns had reached her ears, and she knew that Yellow Bear had met enemies. At the first gleam of light, sufficient to show a trail, she moved on at the head of her band. Biting Red Plume attended Cynthia, the Sunflower, who rode farther back in the line. A special guard was placed over Sioux prisoners, whom Wanda designed as a surprise to Yellow Bear. Did Cynthia, the Sunflower, see Blessed Spirit of Dreams last night? Asked Red Plume. Yes, said the girl. It is right that Red Plume should hear what Dream Spirit told her. The Dream Spirit came to me as a young paleface with dark eyes and long flowing hair as black as night itself. He held a roll of white bark in his hand, and on it was written, I love Cynthia, the white rose of the prairie. A pale face? Is Cynthia sure that his face was white? Asked Red Plume, with a sad disappointment look. Yes, he was young, and his voice was low, like that of a ring dove. The Dream Spirit is a lie, murmured the young brave, in a low tone, too low for her to understand what he said. But he saw that his face looked dark and troubled as she said, It is not Red Plume, the good friend of Cynthia as well. Yes, but Cloud is on the spirit. He too has had a dream. Will not Red Plume tell his dream to Cynthia? The young warrior was about to reply when there was a sudden commotion in the line, and Wanda put the whole column forward at its greatest speed. The other band under Yellow Bear were seen scattered all over the plains as if in flight, and the daring queen, thinking that the chief had been attacked by superior numbers, hurried on his ascents to assist. Red Plume and Cynthia had no further chance to speak. Then Wanda met Yellow Bear, who had remained with a chosen band of warriors, while the rest of his braves had dashed away to pursuit of the two scouts. Yellow Bear had his two prisoners with him. When Wanda rode up and met her chief, she glanced at Spotted Tail and was at the captive, Boyd, and asked, "Are all these prisoners Yellow Bear has taken?" "All," said Chief. "Yet the belts of his warriors bear the scalps of many palefaces." "Where is Dove Eye?" asked the queen. "She is not here. Dove Eye and Long Rifle and other paleface are yet on plains. But my warriors are on their trail. They will be mine before sun goes down." A smile of desertion passed over her face, and Wanda was about to speak when a cry from the lips of Cynthia attracted the attention of all. "Who? Who is this?" she cried as she rode up to Captain Boyd and looked earnestly in his face. "A paleface doomed to torture's sake," said Yellow Bear sternly. "No, no, he must not die. He is the dream spirit whom I saw last night," she cried. Had she seen the black, bitter look of hatred cast on the young, fair face of Red Plume, Cynthia would have trembled. Cynthia is a child. She dreams too much. Why is she not at home in the village of Yellow Bear?" asked the chief. "She and Red Plume were captured in sight of your lodge by the Sioux. Wanda rescued them, and she holds Sioux captive as a present for her chief," said the queen. At a signal from the woman, the prisoners were brought into the presence of Yellow Bear. Spotted Tail recognized young Beaver and asked him why he had let a woman become his captor. "Because young Bear was blind and fell into a trap," said the young chief bitterly. "The Great Spirit has willed that he should die with his chief." "The will of the Great Spirit shall be done, and it is not for us to weep over," said Spotted Tail calmly. "We can teach the Blackfeet how Sioux warriors can die." Yellow Bear now ordered the column to move to a camping ground where he would wait for his warriors, who were out in pursuit of the fugitives. Seeing that Cynthia looked with strange longing on the face of the young captain, who she persisted in calling the dream spirit, he bade Wanda to keep her close under his own eye and apart from all but Red Plume. At noon, the entire party was in camp on the banks of the river. Here Yellow Bear waited for his scattered warriors to rally, sending up smoke after smoke to show where he was. Spotted Tail looked grimly on while these smokes ascended, for he knew they would serve as signals to rally his warriors too. If Dove Eye had escaped, she would carry the news of his capture to those who would rescue him or perish in trial. Chapter 11. The Pursuit of Dove Eye. When Dove Eye rode away from Buffalo Bill, to whom, unmasked, she had given her heart, she did not dread her peril. When she thought that the scout's safety would depend entirely on her success in carrying help to him, and those whom he was determined to rescue, her father, the little brave, she nerved herself to hasten to carry out his wishes. While darkness shielded her, keeping close under cover of the trees lining the bank of the river, she rode as swiftly as her horse would go. She rode thus for miles before she came to the great bend in the stream of which Buffalo Bill had spoken. It was not yet daylight when she reached the spot, and she hastened across before the light should enable anyone to discover her. She crossed safely, and while the rosy light of the coming day allowed the peaks of which the scout had spoken to stand out boldly to her sight as a guide, she also felt that her danger was just beginning. Heading directly for the distant peak, the brave girl gave her horse its rein for she knew that every mile gained at this point would be the most important of all. She rode for an hour before she dared to look back, and then it was on the crest of a knoll that she glanced over her shoulder to see if she was pursued. One eager look, and she knew that men were on her track. They were very far in the rear, but she could make out horsemen scattered along the plains. She let her noble steed rest for a few minutes, for she knew that a long, cruel race had begun. Over a treeless plain, on the brave girl rode, pausing not until a small lake came in sight. Here, for fully 10 minutes, she rested to let her horse drink from the cool water and gave his tired limbs. Her pursuers gained while she thus halted, until she could count them easily. Only 6 were now in sight, but these seemed well mounted. With her horse rested and refreshed, she again started forward. The wisdom of her act became at once apparent. Her horse had gained renewed vigor, and her pursuers were almost out of sight. Now, with all the cool thought and courage that would have done credit to a warrior, she gave her horse its will. She would reach the range of her own people, or the fort where the white soldiers lived. And then, if the pursuers still followed her trail, their scalps should hang at her belt. Once in a long while, she looked back, and she became aware that her pursuers yet followed, though they too must have halted at the lake to refresh their animals. But she dashed forward now, urging her horse to do its best on level stretch, then letting it breathe as it came to an ascent, confident that by management she could keep going until night, with its friendly shadows, would help her elude those who persistently followed. At last, Dove felt that her horse was weakening when he reached an ascent, and she allowed him to slacken his speed for rest. She could feel his limbs trembling even while he walked. And yet her pursuers, 6 still in number, were in sight and closer than they had been from the start. She lashed her horse now to its last efforts. Far ahead she saw trees, and if she could gain the forest, she might elude those who were in her chase. Her pursuers, near enough to see her almost frantic exertions, now seemed as determined to prevent her success. Her shrill yells reached their ears, though she knew no fear of death. Her heart was maddened at the thought of failure. Her noble horse seemed to feel all that she felt. It leaped madly on, even though every leap seemed but a staggering bound which would be its last. On, only a mile more, and she would be under the cover of the wild wood. Her horse, though black as a jet in its native hue, was now white with foaming sweat. A few hundred yards more, and the girl would reach the forest shades. While in reach of the deadly rifle shot, the brave horse made one fearful leap and fell. A ball had reached its vitals. Yet, after a yell of triumph broke from the pursuer's fiendish lips, the heroic girl was on her feet as her horse fell headlong, and her father's rifle in her hand, she turned to face her foes. Chapter 12. The Scouts Separate. When Buffalo Bill and Dave Estes reached the hills which overlooked the Wind River Valley, leaving no trail for some miles, as they rode up and into the bed of a small stream, they had a fair chance to inspect the country below. Though a powerful field glass, Buffalo Bill could distinctly make out the encampment of Yellow Bear, and see that he intended to remain there at least overnight, for his hunters were seen killing and dressing game in the vicinity of the camp. "I do believe the old cuss thinks his braves will find us and take our scalps," said Dave. "He wouldn't wait if he wasn't for that, when he must know the Sioux will rally to rescue their chief." "He is waiting as much as Dove as for us," said the older scout. He has smitten by her beauty, and it's hard for him to lose her. I hope she has got off safely. I shall not feel easy till I know she has. If she is captured, farewell to any hope for Spotted Tail. Yellow Bear would burn him before the Sioux could strike a blow to save him. How are you to find out whether she has got through all right or not? We will know if we see the troops coming quick enough, but I doubt whether she knows the country. If she has been chased out of the line of the peaks which mark Fort Thompson, she'll never find Custard. I feel very uneasy about it. So do I, said Dave, uneasy enough to go and look for her trail and to follow it up, asked Bill, in a careless tone, but with an earnest look in his eyes. And leave you here alone in the hills? I'm better able to take care of myself alone than she is, said Buffalo Bill. That's true, as preachin', but how can I find her trail? Easy. If she crossed the river at the Great Bend and steered due east for Brown's Peak, as I told her to do, there's a good mark to find it. Her horse, I noticed when I rescued her from Yellow Bear, was shod before it had been shod before behind, but the shoes were off. An Indian horse shod? An Indian horse, I reckon, had been stolen from some immigrant train, for I saw a white man's brand on the haunches. That accounts for the shoes then. But what will you do if you go and try to take her trail? Wait hereabouts and watch them down there. If they move, I'll move. And if I see a rocket at night or three quick black smokes in the day, I'll know where you are and answer you. Bill, I had got a half a mind to go when night sets in. Go, Dave, go, and I'll feel easier for it. You'll not run any risk and lose your hair? Dave, how often must I tell you with that? I've done running any risk I can help. Done running risk? That's rich. When you faced 100 deaths to get me clear this morning. Well, Dave, my boy, I couldn't help it, for I know you would have done that for me. Yes, I would, Bill, said Dave earnestly. I never go back and face your wife. I have left your bones on the plains. I hope you'll have no occasion to, Dave, but come while your horse is filling up on a bunch of grass. We may as well have some of that antelope for over the fire. You'll need all your strength tonight and tomorrow. You must get far out of sight of any of the Red Scouts before day. That's so if it's decided that I go. Of course it is. Dave said no more, but at once went to slicing up some antelope steaks, while Buffalo Bill made a fire on a little hollow out of a small dry sticks, which blazed up strong and hot without emitting any smoke. In a little while the scouts had a good hearty meal ready, and they enjoyed it. Meantime the horses luxuriated on the tender grass which skirted the stream. After eating, the two men looked very carefully to their arms, inspected the amount of ammunition on hand, and planned signal markers which Buffalo Bill would leave if the Indians changed base and he had to follow them. The moment night set in, Dave Estes mounted his horse and, shaking Buffalo Bill's hand, warmly rode away, taking his course by the evening star. Buffalo Bill was now alone. For a time he stood with folded arms, listening to the sound made by the horse of Dave Estes as the latter rode down by the brook. Then, when the sound died away, he looked down at the twinkling lights made by the Indian campfires. I've a good mind to give them an almighty scare between now and daylight, he muttered to himself. Then, on a second thought, he added, It better not be. It might make Yellow Bear hurry up and get rid of Spotted Tail, and that youngster, Boyd, Powder Face, now left the grass and came up where Bill was standing. "How is it, old nag? All safe around here?" asked the scout, as if the horse could really understand his question. The animal lay down close to where he stood, tired and sleepy, "And all is safe," said his master, patting his faithful horse, and then unrolled the blanket from the rear of the saddle and wrapping himself in it. He lay down and his head upon the side of the horse, knowing that being sensitive to sound as the best watchdog, the animal would start at the slightest alarm and arouse him should his slumber be heavy. Well, there we go. Chapter 12 or 13. Chapter 13, The Tiger of the Comanches. And we're going to end right there. Okay. And stop sharing. Stop. Oh, there we go. There we go. Look at that. I did it. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that. That was a good one. So we're seeing that Dave Estes and Buffalo Bill had split up, and we'll have to find out what's going to happen to the young maiden who's off to get the custard. So anyway, that was pretty good. But anyway, you all have to join me next time as we roll right back into this, and we will continue on with chapter 13. So go out, make it a great day. Thank you for all of you for joining me at listening to Buffalo Bill's The Wild West stories that haven't been told for over 100 years. You gotta love that part. And so go out, do something nice for somebody. Remember, it'll all come back on you. You gotta remember that there's the things you do will come back to reward you in the end. Maybe you'll make a good friend later on. Do something nice for somebody else that you don't even know, or give us as much as a smile or a wave. And remember to go out and be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. It's the best thing you can ever do. Peace, everybody.